My name is Ann Michael Jenkins, and I'm doing my presentation on Ernest Shackleton. I chose to do my presentation on him because he was an incredible leader who pushed through the hard times he endured with his head always held high. Shackleton to this day is an inspiring leader who would not stop at anything in order to bring his men home safely. He was the leader of the renowned Empirical Trans-Antarctic Expedition that set sail in December of 1914. By October 1915, a crisis was apparent to him. This trip would have made him the first to ever cross the entire continent and bring great fame to Great Britain. Shortly after leaving London, the ship had become trapped in thick ice, almost 100 miles from land. The ocean's strong currents continued to push the ship almost an additional 700 miles north and west. Packed thickly in ice, the ship was dying. The vessel's crew worked to try and free the ship, but Shackleton knew he had to move everyone onto the ice, and so he did. And now Shackleton was faced with losing his ship and trying to get his crew home safely. Forced with having to make the difficult decision, but right decision, to lead his men home safely before reaching the South Pole, his leadership traits, philosophy, and style were portrayed throughout this process. In the many obstacles faced, Shackleton demonstrated all 6 of the leadership traits, which are intelligence, confidence, charisma, determination, sociability, and integrity. Shackleton exhibited confidence and determination throughout the entirety of his journey. He did this by leading with a direct mindset, ensuring the crew that they would make it home safely no matter what. He exhibited intelligence in his planning methods. He was very precise when planning and planning what the next step for the crew was. When speaking to the crew after the Endurance was destroyed, he exhibited charisma by letting the crew know that they were his priority and that he would do everything he could to accommodate them and get them home. While sailing, Shackleton exhibited social ability while communicating with the crew on levels. He made it a point to build relationships with each crew member. Lastly, Shackleton exhibited integrity when ensuring them that their services were valuable to him and that they would indeed be rewarded. The leadership philosophy Shackleton related to was Theory Y, and Shackleton deeply related to the democratic leadership style, which strongly resembles the assumptions of Theory Y. This leadership style depicts leaders who treat followers as fully capable of doing work on their own, rather than controlling followers. He worked with his followers, and he used top-down communication, speaking on the same level as his crew. And as a leader, he offered information, guidance, and suggestions, but did so without giving orders and applying pressure. He valued the crew's hard work and loyalty, and he fostered that. Shackleton was born on February 15, 1874, in Ireland, and grew up in a middle-class family. His first experience at sea was at the age of 16, where he was a ship's boy on a merchant vessel. In 1900, he was granted a spot in the National Antarctica Expedition, sailing on the ship the Discovery. From this expedition, Shackleton learned the efforts, mindset, and hard work it took to complete such a treacherous trip, and decided to embark on an Antarctic expedition of his own. In 1907, he embarked on his own expedition, and this trip would later make Shackleton a national hero, even though he and his 3 companions did not reach the South Pole, though they traveled the farthest south any man had ever been. 2 years into the ship, the crew was lacking the strength they needed to continue. Shackleton knew if they continued towards the South Pole, his men would not live to make it home. During this disappointing time, Shackleton chose to put his men in their lives first, writing in his diary, "Whatever our regrets may be, we have done our best." Amid the crises and high risks faced during Shackleton's second Antarctic voyage, he proved he had the morale and effort it took to be a successful leader. These experiences shaped Shackleton into a great leader and influenced his leadership in the future. He took immediate control during a desperate time, and in such moments where anyone would be afraid and unsure, he stood firm and led his crew decisively onward, while being proud of what they had accomplished. Shackleton faced many obstacles, such as bringing his crew together in the early stages of the expedition. Ultimately, he saw the things he implemented into the crew's everyday life as an essential protector against skepticism, hopelessness, and ethical downfall. Shackleton made it a point to keep his men enthusiastic, and in doing so he presented himself in a happy and entertaining way. As a leader, he also recognized how vital it was to never let his crew see his problems or worst anxieties, for it would negatively affect his men. In order to do so, he always remained engaged and confident. Another obstacle he faced was having to abandon his ship. Shackleton understood that achieving his mission depended critically on how he managed himself, mentally, emotionally, and physically. In doing so, he exhibited the leadership traits of confidence, determination, integrity, and intelligence. He knew the road to safety was long and dangerous, but he continued to show his crew what a strong leader he was by keeping a structured mind and a structured plan. At one point, after abandoning ship, a crew member opposed his leadership, and he was faced with having to mend that so his crew's mindset would not be influenced negatively. Shackleton sought to implement his vision. A vision is defined as a mental model of an ideal future state. As a leader, Shackleton did a very good job of implementing his vision to his crew members. For the expedition, Shackleton wanted to gather a crew with perseverance and stamina, who had a shared purpose of achieving a common goal. During the expedition, his wise words and guidance were what kept the crew's mindsets afloat with enthusiasm and hopefulness. He was committed to putting his men and their needs first, never letting them see his frustration or uncertainty. Shackleton embodied everything it takes to be an inspirational and effective leader. He sacrificed his own goals for the comfort and needs of his crews. He also kept his personal troubles hidden from them. He never wanted them to perceive him as a weak leader. Even when he came down with the illness of sciatica, he continued to lead his men, even bedridden, with courage and determination, and kept a watchful eye for any loss of morale. He never allowed his men to see his emotions, especially in times when he felt hopeless and frustrated due to their little progress. When managing his emotions. From his previous journeys, he learned that in order to succeed in a mission, an important tool for him to implement was his presence. How he presented himself to his crew was crucial. This included his energy level, his willpower, and even his body language, and it all mattered and influenced his crew greatly. It was vital for him to maintain his emotional intelligence always. It is important for leaders to exhibit emotional intelligence, which is the skill of comprehending your own and others' emotions in order to implement this understanding to life's task. It is defined as the ability to perceive and express emotions, to use emotions to facilitate thinking, and to understand and reason with emotions, and to manage emotions effectively within oneself and in relationships with others. As his ship was cracking beneath packed ice, Shackleton displayed emotional intelligence by first acknowledging his own emotions and what was causing them. He became conscious of his crew members' feelings, which was pure agony in the Arctic climate. He used his emotional intelligence to try and keep them focused on getting home. He had the abilities to read others' emotions, and this better equipped him in responding appropriately to his crew members' wants and needs. He simply expressed empathy for his crusading crew, and he took their feelings into personal account. Shackleton did a good job of managing his emotions and put them towards common good. This is important because emotions need to be embraced and managed for the good of the group. Doing this increases the chances that the group's decisions will be effective. I can't talk.